Hi, I'm Billy Keels, the host of the Going Long podcast. Every week, I'm going to be here interviewing the absolute best in the business as it relates to real asset investing, as well as real Main Street investors. We're going to be having conversations where you can listen in, and that's going to help you to continue on your path to education so that you feel much more comfortable as well as confident in investing long distance. So make sure that you go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Make sure that you're liking it as well, because that way you can get every single episode as soon as it comes out. And by the way, don't forget to leave today's episode a 5-star review. Let's go ahead and listen to today's conversation. Welcome to the Going Long podcast. We're back once again to continue to help to educate you so that you feel much more comfortable as well as confident investing beyond your backyard. And if you've ever wanted to know how to make your long distance investing journey rock, then guess what? This is the conversation that you're going to want to listen to until the very end. You know why? Because today's guest, she's on a journey to learn more about real estate investing and also translate those learnings into a curriculum for others. She's an entrepreneur, a real estate investor who's helping others to overcome obstacles to start achieving the life that they really want to live. She's also the managing partner of Lauren Capital, as well as the co-founder and host of The Academy Presents. And it gives me great pleasure to welcome to today's conversation, Angel Williams. Angel, welcome to the show.
Hey, how are you today?
Angel, I am doing fantastic, even much better now that you and I are speaking with one another. I'm so excited for the entire Going Long family to get to know you, know more about you and the things that you are doing, both on the education side of things as well as with your real estate company. So, you know what, Angel, here's the thing. You and I are going to have a great conversation. People are going to get to know you. They're going to get to want to connect with you and all that kind of stuff. But I kind of ask everybody at least the same 5 questions. I'm going to ask you 2 in the beginning. I'm going to ask you 3 in the end. And then in the middle, well, you and I are just going to talk about life and all the wonderful things that you're doing and the lives that you're impacting. So to get started, would love for you to help us understand, help me and the Going Long family understand, where do you live in the United States?
All right. So we are in North Texas. And I usually just say North Texas because if you're not military, you probably have no clue where Wichita Falls is. Because it's not the biggest town out here, you know. So I just usually just say North Texas, and people assume DFW or they assume Amarillo or any number of things that are up at the top. And we just go with it.
All right, perfect. Well, that works for us, North Texas. And by the way, everybody, because I used to live in Texas as well, like Texas is a really, really, really big state. Like you can start on the far east side to the far west side. And what is it, Angel, about 24 hours, something like that?
It depends on whether you have to stop to use the bathroom.
Well, no, we're going to assume you're not stopping. Maybe 23 minutes and 48 seconds. Or 23 hours and 48 seconds.
Yeah, I have no idea. It's big. It's super big.
Yeah, it's huge. It takes a really, really long time. So perfect. So that is, you helped us understand where you are in the north part of Texas, but help us also understand something. Angel, what is the most positive thing that's happened to you in the last 24 hours?
So I was actually on a meetup last night, and I love virtual meetups. It is like the best thing. I mean, the best thing out there, period. Because like when you go to a face-to-face, yes, it's awesome. You have these great connections, but you connect to like 50 people. In the virtual meetup, yeah, I've connected to people all over the US, all over the world. We met our partners, which don't even live in Texas. And it's been amazing because I don't know that we would have met them any other way. And it's super awesome because we're all on the same page. And so it was like the universe was just like, hey, this is what needs to happen. And y'all all need to get together and you will make an amazing team. And it's been great.
Fantastic. So getting some time on the virtual meetups, those are good. And you know, since we've been doing this.
I didn't even tell the story.
Well, that's okay. That's okay. Because you're going to tell us now. And I was just going to say, so for us long distance investors, it's one of those things that's fantastic because we've been doing this virtual stuff for a really, really long time. Because when you live on one continent and invest in another continent, or live in one city and invest 2 hours away, well, you kind of get used to that. But this is one of the things that COVID has helped us to do, is to meet more people quickly. But anyway, go ahead and finish.
No, so the story I was going to tell is like, so I wouldn't have met you. I wouldn't have met Michael and Susie. I wouldn't have met any of those people. And somebody last night was like, hey, I heard your podcast with Michael and Susie, and it made me cry. And I was like, what? And it was just really neat because I don't expect my story to affect people that don't have special needs family members. And so for someone outside of that world to say that it had an impact on them was just super huge. And so in the last 24 hours, even though it made me like, it pulled at my heart, it was really positive to know that I was able to make a difference for someone.
Yeah, and that's one of the things. And one of the things I love about being a podcast host is we get the chance to find out so much about people and the things that are really important. I mean, it was one of the things you and I were talking about in the beginning. And so everybody, provided you give people the opportunity to learn more about your story, then people understand that the real assets or the real estate is just one facet of your life. And so just knowing that you were able to get feedback from someone to know that you positively impact someone's life, I think is great. And I appreciate you sharing that with me and with the entire Going Long family. And speaking of which, right? So here's the thing, Angel, I try to do as best I can in a couple seconds, tell your story at a high level and get people to want to listen even more and stuff like that. But it's like impossible because you've done a lot of stuff. You have a fantastic bunch of things that are happening in your life. It's very busy, very productive. And so I would love for you to tell your story in your way. And along the way, Angel, one of the things I would ask you to do is also help us to understand what are some of the major decisions that you've made to get to this point in your investing and educational journey as well as give us a chance to know a little bit more about you, please.
All right. So my husband and I both grew up in families that invested in real estate. So the fact that we now invest in real estate was just kind of a natural progression. It wasn't something we really thought about. Like when we bought the first house, Jason was finishing up his doctorate, but we knew when we bought that house, it would be our first investment property. We knew it would be our first rental, and we still own that house. It's a single family home in Lubbock, and we still have it. We have a manager there that takes care of it. And Lubbock is, 3-4 hours from us. And most people are like, why would you have a property manager for a single family home? But we have property managers for everything we have. So, I don't know. It's a long way away and it's working out. So we've got that going. We got some more single family homes when we moved here to Wichita Falls. And we got Anson's diagnosis when he was about 19 months old. And at that point in time, there were 742 cases diagnosed in the world. And so there weren't a lot of answers. And as we progressed, we realized that he was going to need potentially some pretty substantial care. And single family homes is a slow roll. And we discovered multifamily. We discovered Joe Fairless. And so my husband's like, we need to do multifamily. I'm like, I don't know, Jason. I really like single family is my jam. I feel comfortable in it. I can go into a single family home. I can think of a price. I can think of what needs to happen. It's my jam. And so moving into something so much larger with so many more moving parts and a larger team required for it to operate successfully it was pretty intimidating to me, and I don't get real intimidated by stuff. And now it's like, oh, this is going to be a little scary, Jason. But he was like, no, this is the direction we need to go. And so that was really kind of what propelled us into it. And then we decided, we don't want anyone else to get a diagnosis and then not have any real answers. So we decided we want to be able to start a foundation that supports the current organization that does the research, education, and outreach in the U.S. And we want to be able to donate $100,000 inflation adjusted ourselves to that organization, because right now, when $100,000 is collected, like collectively amongst all the members, it's a big deal. And we want to be able to double that, because that's something on our hearts. We don't want another family to be stuck with what if, and we don't know, and there are no answers. So that's one of the major reasons why we went into multifamily.
So you went into multifamily because one of your goals is to be able to donate for you, Jason, the two of you, to be able to donate $100,000 a year on an adjusted, inflation adjusted basis, because your why is you don't want other families to have to go through what you and Jason have gone through. Is that correct?
Yeah. And just so they don't have to, it sucks when there's no answers and you're like, well, what does this mean? Well, and nobody can give you answers. And so we just don't want anyone else to have to go through that. And we want to make sure that even when Anson passes and when we're gone, that there's still a continuation of that donation that comes through. So we want to have an endowment so that it can continue even once we're gone, because this thing isn't going away. There's really not a cure for it. So.
And so this is something, so a lot of times we talk to to one another. And I mean, or when we're talking to people, we're helping to educate people, or we're helping people to create new alternatives for their lives. It's about understanding what is the why. And a lot of times people say, well, just like you hear all the time, I'm getting into real estate. Why? Because I want to make a lot more money. Well, that's not really why you're trying to get into real estate. There's like, when you go through the 5 whys that we take people through, you really help them to understand. Now, one of the things, because I want to make sure that the Going Long family also understands, because you've made mention that you when Anson was diagnosed, there were 742 cases in the world, I think is what you said, but you didn't actually help us understand. So if you could help us understand also what the diagnosis was, because, you know, there may, in the same way that you were with other people, there may be some people that hear that you will also be able to connect with. So if you're okay with that.
Okay. So what Anson has is called Duke 15Q. I think now the latest statistics are like 1,400 cases in the world, but it is the second leading genetic cause for autism. The first being Fragile X. So it could be that there are more cases, but people get the autism diagnosis and they don't continue on for the genetic testing. So it could be that there are many more occurrences and they're just not identified. So the first thing we were told is that, you know, over 50% of the kids with this diagnosis have autism, profound autism, like massive seizures, they're developmentally delayed or intellectually disabled. Some speak, some don't. So like Anson is 10, he's still in diapers. He's got, I don't know, 100, 150 words maybe, but he's in a phase right now where he doesn't want to open up his mouth when he talks. So he keeps his mouth together. And so you can barely understand what he's saying. We know because we're around him all the time. But here recently, he's decided he wants to leave the house and wander the neighborhood. And we try and keep everything locked. But like on July 4th, we were in the backyard doing some, you know, fun stuff with like some hot dogs and whatnot, and smaller fun stuff, little sparklers and whatnot. And I guess he didn't like it. So he went inside. We assumed he went into his room with his iPad because that's what he does when stuff is just too much. And Jason went in. He was like, Anson is gone. I'm like, oh my God, crap. Because Jason installed another deadbolt at the top of the door that Anson can't reach. Well, the door was open. Anson had opened the garage and he was gone. And so my husband and my oldest took off down one side of the street, one direction. I went the other direction. And as I'm going, here comes Anson around the corner and this man is following him. And I'm like, okay, this is weird, but I'm glad I'm seeing Anson. And the guy tells me, he goes, yeah, he came into our yard and I knew something was, and he didn't know how to say something was off. Mm-hmm. And so I just looked down and said, we're good. He's got profound autism. He's like, yeah, my wife knew. I'm like, it's okay. Thank you. He's like, well, you know, we were about to call the cops. I'm like, well, I'm glad you didn't. But it's just things like that. And I don't want other people to not have some level of preparation for that. Mm-hmm. Because it sucks. I'm like, right after we got Anson's diagnosis, it was 8-ish children passed from complications of the disorder. And they pass in their sleep and there's no real known reason. For some of them, it's SUDEP, which is seizure related. And for others, it's kind of just like SIDS, just a sudden unexplained death when sleeping. And so we have a monitor on his bed, and it's not like this big, horrible, oh my gosh, y'all must be really awesome, special people. It's just our normal. And so...
And you know, so here's the thing, Angel, and like I said, we were talking about this before, and I think it's really important because no one is just a whatever. You're not just a sales executive all day. You're not just a real estate investor all day. Every single one of us are people with real lives, real opportunities, real challenges, real connections, all of these kinds of things. And so what I love that you're sharing with us is you're giving us insight into, yet again, that the fact is, when we typically are talking about investing or this kind of stuff, we only see a part of this. And so understanding that this is a really important part of your life, we're talking about your child, we're talking about a reality that life has given you. And every single day, the thing that you're working on is continuing to provide love to your child, to your family, continuing to provide education and also exposure like you're doing here today, so that each and every person, number one, has the opportunity to recognize that, hey, these are real lives. And two, I'm sure that you're reaching out to other people that may have recognized this, and I'm sure you are making connections with people every single day. And so the fact that you're giving us this insight is fantastic. And one of the things that I would like for us to maybe pivot to a little bit, because you mentioned kind of what you're doing, but I know also too that you didn't talk about Jason. I'd love to know what Jason does, because you were talking about him working on his PhD. But also, I happen to know that you are an adjunct professor of economics as well, when you're not being full-time mommy and real estate investor and educator and all that kind of stuff. So maybe tell us about what you and Jason do to also kind of keep things moving.
Yeah. So in addition to having a special needs child, you still have to provide like normalcy for your typical children, right? So we've got a 13-year-old and wow, teenagers. Wow. We'll just leave it there. Teenagers. Wow. We also have a 6-year-old and a 4-year-old. But my husband is a chemical engineer. And so he designs heat exchangers. So I guess it's kind of like a radiator. It's a way to conserve energy. So hot fluid goes in one end, cold fluid goes in the other. And fluid is even air. Air is a fluid. At first, when I heard fluid, I thought liquid.
Yep.
But no, fluid is anything that moves, I guess, freely. So comes in hot on one end, cold on the other. It goes through plates, it shares energy, and they both come out lukewarm on the other end. So it takes less energy to get it to the super hot or the super cold needed for whatever process it is being involved in. That is what he does.
Gotcha.
Super crazy smart, which is why he is an amazing underwriter. So he also has, I want to say he double majored in computer science. So when he was building his underwriting spreadsheet, he was coding things into it. So like in Excel, these things pop up and I'm like, what the heck is this? He's like, oh, well, I did that because the macros kept running and were bogging down the system. And so this way I can turn them on and off at will. And I'm like, but it's not Excel. You did something over here in this like paragraph form. And he's like, yeah, that was like it's like VAS or some 3 letters that he coded to make it work better.
Right. So, and you're going, okay, yep. All right. Yeah.
That's what he does.
Okay. All right. So that's what Jason does. He works with fluids and stuff and
loves Excel.
And loves Excel. And so that's great for which is great for underwriting, because I know that's also one of the kind of the 3 areas that you focus on in terms of underwriting services. You do also helping people with education around real estate investing, and also to the podcast. But we'll come back to that kind of stuff later. Talk to us about you and your focus on economics and this adjunct professorship.
Yeah. So I actually used to also be in the K-12 environment, and it was a point where I was kind of in I was in a toxic environment. And so I needed to leave that situation, and I went out on FMLA. There was not a doctor around that was going to sign off for me to go back. And so I was like, Jason, what can I do? Because I'm like sitting around thinking I have like 0 skills. What can I add to a team? What can I do? Mm-hmm. And so Jason and I we had a pretty serious talk about it. And it came down to, what am I good at? Well, I'm good at talking. I'm good at making people get comfortable and talk to me, and I'm good at relationships. And so that was where kind of some of this was born from, was that I'll talk to anybody, and I have the belief that I can learn from anybody, and I can share these amazing things that everybody and anybody has within them. And so that is where the Academy Presents was born, and the Real Estate Investing Rock Summit was born from, was this idea that, okay, I'm good at talking. So how do we make that work?
All right. So listen, so you're good at talking. You also too, on the economic side of things, you like it. You have and you're helping to educate other people. And we talked about the curriculum things that you're building, and even though you had experience in real estate, because you both come from families that were actively involved, and I'm adding actively, you can tell me if I'm wrong or right, in investing in real estate. But just because you'd seen it doesn't mean that you needed to go down that route. So I'm curious, and I know the Going Long family is curious, like, why did you even go down the real estate route yourselves?
Well, I mean, let me think of a more PC way to say it. Society kind of primes you and wires you, right? Yes. So you see what is considered the norm, and people have the tendency to go the norm. You go to college, you get a job, and you work the rest of your life. You retire at whatever age, and then you get to do the things you always wanted to do. Well, what I saw was my grandparents buying real estate, having real estate investment properties. And I saw them going at the first of every month and picking up rents and trading out appliances and calling little handymen to fix things. And I saw all of that side. So the first thing I knew was that when I do this, I'm not doing all this mess too. That is why from day one, we've had a property manager, because I was like, there's no way I'm self-managing ever.
Yeah.
And then my husband comes from, his family had way more. His family
hang on a second, Angel, because I love this. So you watched and it's okay. You don't have to be completely PC here. So, because especially because there are a lot of people that are like me, like I am a recovering perfectionist. I was that A student and I was doing all the things that I was told to do. Eventually, when you lose 33% of your stock portfolio, and that's where you've basically placed your kind of retirement life, you're like, and that's happened twice, then you realize I got to do something else. But I never had the opportunity to be able to see grandparents go picking up checks. And so what was going through so you knew that you watched them pick up the checks and you watched them call handymen and stuff around. So what I took away is you knew that for sure you didn't want to go around picking up checks. But when you saw them, what was it that you thought, this I do want to be doing? You didn't want to pick up the checks, but something you did want to be doing.
And I've told this story before, but I haven't quite gone all the way with it. But my grandmother was Hispanic. So my grandmother made it through 8th grade because she would have to go and pick cotton with her family during those seasons. And so my grandmother wasn't really well educated. She got her GED. Mm-hmm. But to think that, and my grandpa he came from a family in Virginia, white man, really solid middle class, upper middle class. And so they came from different ends of the spectrum, but my grandpa had to work really hard for C's. So I got my grandma who got her GED, my grandpa that had worked really hard for C's, and yet they were able to get into real estate investing and be what I saw as incredibly successful.
Gotcha.
And they were creating their own retirement.
Gotcha.
But society tells us, oh no, you go to school, you go to work, you collect your pension, you get your Social Security. And so I had that in the back of my mind. But the other thing I had was, I said, my grandma's Hispanic, my grandpa's white. Well, when my grandmother passed, it was harder for grandpa because a lot of times not even a lot of times, but sometimes renters will try and kind of pull one over on you, right? Mm-hmm. Well, I felt like my grandpa was getting taken advantage of more than grandma did. Because like grandma may have only gotten her GED, but my smarts came from somewhere. And grandpa's real smart and compassionate, but he had to work real hard for those grades. And my grandma had a whole lot of common sense. And I imagine that had she gone to school, she would have blown it out of the water. Yeah. But I saw the level of what people were trying to do to my grandpa versus when my grandma was there too.
Gotcha.
And so I know what I look like. And I didn't want to see myself in that situation either. So that's kind of the non-PC part of it, I guess. But I think it's a reality sometimes.
Well, it's a part of your story, and it's things that you are seeing, and it's things that you're feeling. So I think it's interesting because then you're telling your side of the story, and you were getting ready to tell Jason's side of the story. And then after Jason's side of the story, I want us to go kind of and I know you primarily focus where you live, but also you've even told us you're not investing where you live. And I have a question for you about that specifically, but give us some insight into Jason, what his family kind of investing looked like.
Yeah. So my grandparents had like a couple, like 2 or 3 single family homes. I think 4. Anyway, it doesn't matter. And then like a quadplex of apartments and then a small trailer park. And I was thinking, that's amazing. Our grandparents have a ton of stuff. And then I meet my husband and I didn't even know, like I knew they had quads. Well, when Jason's dad passed away, comes to find out it's like 70 units of residential multifamily. And I'm like, holy night. Because it was just like, it's like a whole different level because at that point they become apartments. It's like a multifamily. And they're all pretty close together on a couple of different streets in one location. And so that gave them some heft with their property management company. They weren't looking at that, industry standard of 10% on the residential side. They were able to have some negotiating power. But it was between the two of us, we've got, 30 years experience. And we have a family background too. So it just made it a really natural progression for us and a way for us to make sure that our daughters get to be typical children while also understanding that they have a brother that has additional needs and being able to just love him and not worry about where the money's going to come from for all those medical needs, because medical is just stupid priced.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I appreciate you sharing that. And so then also I'm listening to you and your experience and the things that you saw from your grandmother, your grandfather. And then also it sounds like Jason on his side, that they were doing very similar at a larger scale, right? And so then the two of you come together, you have these different things that are happening in your lives, and you're working, you're doing K through 12 education. Now you're doing higher ed as well. And Jason is working with fluids, even though the air can be fluid, which is pretty interesting. I bet you a lot of people didn't know that.
Well,
but here's the thing.
Weird.
Yeah. But here's the other thing, like, because we're on the Going Long podcast, and typically people are investing in beyond their backyard. Like, we want people to feel comfortable and confident. Like, you don't. And the reason for this whole thesis is, Angel, as you know, I live in Barcelona, Spain, and I have never purchased a property that was even on the same continent. Right. And I own actively, I own passively, I own large pieces of energy equipment. I'm syndicating capital. I passively invest in ATM machines. I do like a lot of things. And so when people say you have to live in the same place where you invest, I fundamentally don't believe that. I'm proof that you don't have to do that. But I'm always curious, because when you read the books always make you believe that you have to invest beyond your backyard. Even if they don't just directly state it, it's kind of implied when you're reading it. So I'm always curious, like, why would anybody ever invest beyond their backyard? Like, why are you investing in a place where you have to have like a 2 or 3 hour car drive to get there, or heaven forbid on another continent?
Because when the numbers work, the numbers work. I mean, it doesn't matter where they work. When they work, you want in on that, right? So like, yeah,
I know I do, and the Going Long family does. But a lot of times people are like, oh my gosh, you can do all this, but it's too far away. I'm not doing that.
Well, I mean, Houston is 8 hours. Is it 8 hours from us? It's a long way. And we're invested in several passive deals in Houston. And then we're invested in deals in DFW. And am I close to DFW? And we're 2.5 hours. But do I really want to be involved in checking up on those things? No. Now we're looking at a deal right now that's in our backyard, but we would love to get it. Yeah. We know this market. We know this market really well, but it's not a requirement. It's a numbers thing.
So Angel, I love you said a couple of things. So, and I agree with you and the majority of people that are watching us and listening to us. And by the way, if you're not watching us, you need to be watching the video version as well. So stop on the treadmill or just go from the Apple, whatever, over to the video version, because Angel and I are both saying hello. And so, but you said something that's really interesting, right? You said, one, you've invested passively, and two, you said, well, like, the numbers work. In your opinion, what is the most important aspect of being able to feel comfortable investing passively in a place where you don't actually live?
You really want to feel good about the operating team. And I have recently learned that while I love to just rely on my gut, I'm not always 100% right. And so I think that you really need a good set of questions to vet your operators. And my friend Sandia has an amazing list. And then over the past few months, other people have given me additional questions to ask too that are different from the ones she has. And so she and I are going to get together and make another list. But it's just really using what's at your disposal. So finding out, hey, who's invested with you before? Can I talk to them?
You just that was one of the questions I was going to say. Would you be kind enough to just wait? Hey, listen. So I'll go ahead and ask on behalf of the entire Going Long family. So you just gave us a good one. Would you be kind enough to share one more kind of like killer question that people should ask, especially when they're looking to invest capital long distance in vetting the operator? One more.
Well, there's actually two really good ones, but
okay, you can over deliver. Go ahead.
Okay, so one of them is how many deals do people generally invest with you on? Like, do they continue from deal 1 to deal 2 to deal 3 to deal 4, or deal 1 to deal 5? But do you have repeat investors? And then the other one is who is your largest investor, and can I talk to them? Because that person usually gets a little bit more consideration
Yep.
And so you want to talk to them. And I never even would have thought about asking those questions. For me, it was like, oh, they're really nice. How do I feel about them? What's the gut feel? Feel good. We should just go with them. And had we known what we know now, we would have never invested in the 4 deals that we're in passively.
Gotcha.
So I'm kind of glad we were ignorant, and that we're not absolutely losing our pants on the 1 deal that's kind of going sideways.
Gotcha.
So we've been very fortunate as far as that is concerned, but to also be able to have the experience to know that there's things that need to be asked that we didn't ask, and compiling those questions to ask so that in the future we don't have a repeat of this, and so that we can share with others so that they can learn from us instead of learning on their own.
Which is awesome. So you're going to help them to learn. They don't have to learn on their own. And this is something that you love. So, and I appreciate you over delivering, because I only asked for 1 and you gave us 3 questions, which is amazing, which is really, really cool, especially when you're looking to vet capital long distance with operators and make sure. And so
Edmund in Canada, Edmund Chan is the one that helped me get some of those questions. He's the one that told them to me, and he is amazing. If you don't know him, you want to know him.
So you'll probably, will you be kind enough to connect me with Edmund? Because I don't know Edmund.
I absolutely
can.
All
right. I know you love doing that kind of stuff anyway. So one of the things that is really, really cool about what you do is you have a real passion for education as well, aside from investing. And so I do want you to talk about where this passion really, I think as we start to get to know you now, and before we get into going along final 3, let's talk about what you're doing with the Academy Presents. Let's talk about the desire that you have to continue to educate people now around this thing called real estate, and so we can understand where that passion comes from.
So I'm a teacher. I will always be a teacher. I'm gonna have a teacher heart probably for the rest of my life. And I like helping people. I like helping people avoid mistakes, shorten their learning curve. And so being able to talk to experts and have those experts just openly share what they've learned, and then to be able to spread that out to whoever wants to hear it and learn from it is huge. A friend of mine actually sent me a video. Dr. Jamil sent me a video the other day. It was a Jim Carrey speech it was a school of management. And he talks about, the best currency in the world is how you make others feel. And I want others to feel like they're learning something, and to feel like they've learned enough that they can, check out what real estate investing is like, and feel good enough to believe that they could be successful at it. And if they don't think they're successful at it yet, that they realize they just need to learn some more, not that it is unattainable or out of reach. So that is, that's my goal.
So, and it's very interesting, because this whole thing about feeling, even when we talked about one of the things you talked about in the very beginning was you don't want people to feel a certain way. As we were talking about Anson and the families, right? And then the other thing, and that is one of the things that's created the why to want to be able to create these donations, endowments, where you and Jason yourselves are doing $100,000 investments, inflation adjusted, of course. And now I hear the same feeling of wanting to help people feel that they're on the right path, that they're not by themselves as they're moving into this direction, which could be new for them, which is real estate. And that it's not surprising, I must say, because you have a teacher's heart, you have a giver's heart, which is something that is fantastic. So tell us. So that's kind of where you were and why you were doing it, and then the academy. So tell us a little bit about the academy, and also the lives that you're impacting and how you're doing that, and then we'll get into the going along final 3.
Yeah, so we started the academypresents.com, and that has some different workshops you can get into. They're pre-recorded, so you can do those at any time. And those are there for people that want to get started. We have some subscription programs that give you access to recorded events. It gives you access to live events. There's a PLC, which PLC is Professional Learning Community. And we do weekly Zoom calls. So if you subscribe, at any level, you're going to get those weekly calls to be a part of the community. And so that we can get to know you and see what you need and what you need help with, so that we can offer that, or so that other people in the community can possibly offer that. Because one of the cool things that I've learned, I've been in education since 2003, is that sometimes, and this is like regardless of age, whether you're in kindergarten or you're in college, sometimes you just learn better from your colleagues as opposed to your teacher. Yeah. And so I want to have a community where people don't always have to go to the teacher, because sometimes that's intimidating, but they can go to the other students or go to their colleagues and they can help one another. Yeah. And so I'm hoping that we get to create that safe space for people to learn and not feel like they can't ask questions, or so that they don't feel stupid for asking a question, because I can guarantee you, if you have a question, somebody else does too, and they just don't have the guts to ask it. So
I'm sure that there's more than one person that doesn't have that has the same question. And by the way, there you go, wanting people to feel once again that they are in a safe place where they can ask questions and things like that. And so it's just a reinforcement of your desire to continue to help people, which I think is fantastic. And here's the thing, Angel, like I want to keep talking to you forever and ever and ever and ever. Like literally I do. And I know that you probably wouldn't be able to do that because you don't like talking too much and you're kind of shy and quiet.
Oh, absolutely. Total introvert.
But here's the thing. So we got to get it to the going long final three. But the thing is, Angel, I never ask anybody the going long final three unless they tell me, which is to you today, that you tell me that you're ready for me to ask you the going long final three. So are you ready?
Sure.
I knew it. I was pretty sure you were going to be like, of course I'm ready. Because you're always ready for things. I know you. So here's the thing. And we talked about this before. I told you 2 questions in the beginning, 3 in the end. And so now we're to the going long final 3. And one of the things I love asking people, because we started with you over in North Texas, and now I kind of want to bring it back this way to me here in Europe. And I would love to know, what is your favorite European city that's that you've already visited or is on your bucket list? Or if you have something else on your heart, you can also share that with us.
So I actually have a huge fear of flying. So like when I have to fly, I have to take a whole bunch of Xanax because I freak out.
Did anybody see Angel? Yeah, she's passed out over in seat 1F or 1B, I think it would be, right? Or 2B maybe.
Well, I've actually researched the safest places on the plane and the golden minute should you crash. I mean, it's scary what I've done, but I've never really flown anywhere longer than a few hours. Okay. Because I physically and mentally can't. But I feel like too, that the universe, the reason why like we were given to Anson was because when you have a special needs child and you've got a family with a special needs or additional needs person, you don't get to do the same kind of things that other families do. So like, I don't know if Anson can fly and we couldn't leave him in another country while we travel the world. So we just have a different kind of bucket list. I mean, I'd love to go to like Paris and London, and there's the train that goes between them. I mean, that would be pretty cool.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But yeah, no.
Cool. Wait, so here's the thing, and because you've also shared a little bit, is there one of the things that you would be comfortable open sharing that you have that is kind of on your family list of things that you'd like to do?
Sure. I mean, like we would love to have 24-hour care for Anson so that we could really just do things as a family. And we've got good care and we've taken nannies on vacation with us before and stuff. And then, I mean, that's been pretty neat, but to have full on care so that we don't have to worry about Anson's medication and we don't have to worry about anything that happened. If he had a situation where he needed to be resuscitated or he needed emergency seizure treatment, to know that we have someone on staff that would be able to take care of that in our absence so that we wouldn't have to have that constantly playing in the back of our mind to make sure that we are watching him for any signs or signals that there's going to be an additional level of care needed soon. Yep. That would be awesome and take way, way, way huge amounts of stress off of the whole family.
Well, I appreciate you being open and feeling comfortable enough, sharing that with me and the entire Going Long family. And that 24-hour day would be absolutely fantastic. And it's a wonderful experience. So thank you for sharing that with us. And, like one of the things I also love sharing with the Going Long family is this whole concept of really being around and learning from successful people. And the thing is, Angel, you're a very successful person. You've done a lot of things, and not just in real estate and education and family. And like this thing about successful people that I've seen, that there's this really pattern. And the thing is with successful people, Angel, one of the reasons that they're successful is because they only make one mistake in their entire life. And the fact that they only make, did I just say that again? I think I said that again. I think I say that every single time, and it's kind of by design, I think. Well, at least the Going Long family thinks. So here's the thing. It was kind of a joke. The thing is, really successful people are just like everybody else. They make the same amount of mistakes, probably more mistakes than most people, or learning opportunities, or however you want to call them. But the thing that really successful people do that is serious is that they do something differently. They stop when they make a mistake, or they have that learning opportunity, and they take away a lesson. So you, as someone who really wants to help people feel comfortable and get into education and things like that, and as you're learning more about me and the Going Long family, what is the one lesson that you would share with the Going Long family from a mistake that you made, a learning opportunity, so that, with the hopes that it's going to help them continue to move move forward faster?
So probably the biggest thing that I've learned, and that I'm still learning all the time, is that I am enough. I've done enough. Sometimes I just need to be easier on myself. And I think that that's a mistake that a lot of people that are aiming for success, because honestly, success is not a destination. You're not just going to magically be, oh, I've reached success today. I think it's a forward moving target. Every time you get closer to it, it moves further away. But I think that people that are really going after that moving target always feel like they're not enough, and that they're not doing enough. And so, like, when I hear you say, you're successful, and you're this or that, it's like, it's kind of embarrassing to me, because that's not how I feel at all. I don't feel that way. And I feel like I'm not doing enough, or that I haven't done enough, or that I haven't helped enough. And so I'm always chasing that. And I know that I need to be easier on myself, because I'm going to run myself into the ground if I don't realize at some point that I'm enough for the people around me that matter the most. And I can be enough for other people too.
Love that. And so just as a reminder for you, Angel, and for every single member of the Going Long family that's growing every single day, by the way, you are enough, and just continue to move forward. So thank you for giving us that perspective and helping us. And so I guess, Angel, with the Going Long Final 3 coming to an end, because we're at the third question, and like we're at the end, almost. What is the one book that you would recommend to the Going Long family?
So it's actually one I read recently, and it was Love Yourself Like Your Life Depends on It. It's, you may think that you really love yourself and that everything's fine. But I went through kind of a low spot, and my husband was like, I think you're depressed. I'm like, I'm not depressed. He's like, no, definitely, I think you're depressed. I'm like, no, seriously, I'm not, Jason. But this book was recommended to us, and I read it and I loved it, because what it talks about is that you get into these set patterns in your thinking, and you wouldn't be where you are today if you were still doing what you did yesterday. And so it talks about like resetting these thought patterns. So when you feel yourself reverting back to the things that were holding you back before, those thought patterns, you need to get into this reset. And the reset is you look in the mirror and you say, I love me. And you just repeat it. I love myself. I love myself. I love myself. I am awesome. I am great. I can do these things. I can do hard things. And you basically are just reaffirming yourself. You affirm and reaffirm and reaffirm and reaffirm over and over and over again, until when things get hard, you don't revert to the old stuff that was holding you back. You go to this new set of thought processes. I don't even know how you say it. Multiple processes.
Potato. Yeah, we got you.
So that you get to go into the new pattern that helps you reach where you're wanting to reach in the future, as opposed to the old stuff that was holding you hostage.
Love that. So love yourself like your life depends on it. Fantastic. We are definitely going to include that in the show notes. And I just like the whole thing, Angel, like these conversations go by way too fast. And I'm just thinking about the very, very beginning of our conversation. And we're talking about, of course, because we love talking about long distance real estate here. And one of the things that we also love doing is getting a chance to know each and every one of our guests. And Angel, the fact that you helped to remind so many people that real estate is one of the vehicles that can help us obtain our whys in life, in the moments when it's difficult, when it's challenging, when we feel like we can't move forward, if you've gripped hard enough onto the why in your life, and whether you're investing actively or passively, you're doing it for a reason. You're doing it long distance for a reason, even more. And you've helped us to just remember that and think about the way that our families play into what we're doing today. You talked about your grandmother and your grandfather. You talked about Jason and what he was seeing in his family. You were talking about the different dimensions of real estate. But one of the things that you took away in your life was the things that you knew that you didn't want to do. While you watched your grandmother and grandfather go around and pick up checks and have to call people, you knew you didn't want to do that part. And then you knew that there were things that you wanted to do, like being able to spend more quality time with Anson and your other children and be there. And as you have this passion for continuing to educate and you're on your own journey and you're wanting to bring other people along with you so that you can also help them to get to their goals faster and feel more comfortable and feel that they're accompanied by other people that are on the same journey so that everybody can get to the top of the mountain together, right? And by being able to do that, kind of help people understand that you got this academy that also is there to, present lots of different things, not just real estate, although, as you say, real estate rocks. And so I'm sure that so many people are inspired by your story. They're thinking, oh my gosh, like this whole PLC concept and being able to grow with other people. I understand what she's saying. She's got a lot of talent in passively investing. She's learned a lot and she's building this community. So help us understand, Angel, like what is the best way for the Going Long family to connect with you, to connect with the Academy Presents and all of the goodness that you are doing in the lives that you're impacting?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you want to see what we have, you can go to www.theacademypresents.com and that'll have contact information. You should join the membership there. I know you're Going Long people, but you could absolutely be Academy Rocks people too, or Academy Presents people too.
By the way, we cross-pollinate. We like being able to be surrounded by cool, like-minded people.
So absolutely, it's free to join them. It's free to join the membership on the website. So just join it, check it out. We've got our meetup. You can get to it from there. You can get to the summit information from there. You can get to our podcast from there. You can get to everything from there. And my husband's underwriting company, Second Set of Eyes, is there. And then I have a concierge virtual events company too called Behind the Curtain. And you can get to that one from there too. So
fantastic. So listen, Angel, I just want to say thanks once again. I appreciate you investing your time with me and the entire Going Long family. And so thank you very much from the bottom of my heart. Appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you for having me on and giving me this opportunity to share.
Yeah, it's my pleasure, our pleasure. So, and Angel, if you give me just a couple seconds, actually, not just 1 second, a couple seconds, I'd just like to say a couple words to the Going Long family. First and foremost, and Going Long family, thanks for investing your time with me and Angel today. Awesome. Didn't you just love what she was sharing? Just helps us also to keep things in the perspective, right? That this is investing and building community and meeting other like-minded, powerful, positive people is something that can help to continue to move us all forward. So do yourself and do the other people that you know that need to hear Angel's message. Just take your phone out of your pocket, share today's episode with 2 or 3 other people. You know that you know 2 or 3 people that needed to hear this message today, and be that person that has the positive impact on their lives. And by the way, since you have your phone out already, would be nice to have you leave us an honest review and a rating of the podcast. Something that I definitely take very, very seriously. Go through so we can continue to bring the most relevant content for you, the best content, the awesome, amazing guests like Angel today. It's also one of the ways we can continue to attract them. So just take a couple seconds, leave an honest review and rating. Would really appreciate that. And I'm really looking forward to welcoming you back on the very next conversation. So until then, go out and make it a great day. And thank you very much.
Wow, don't you love hearing from top-notch experts in the field? When I was getting started, I really wish that I would have had access to such experts. And even more, I wish they would have given me a really simple list of things to follow so that I could have gotten to my goals much faster and been much happier even sooner. So that's why I've created for you the 7 things that you should avoid in order to be successful in long distance investing. And you can pick that up really easily by going to billykeels.com/7 things to avoid. And also, if you liked today's episode, don't forget to leave a 5-star review. I'm looking forward to seeing you on our very next episode, so go out and make it a great day.